Welcome to our video series on generative AI. I'm Kevin Boyd, the CIO at the University of Chicago. I'm very pleased to welcome Sanjay Krishnan, who's a faculty member at the University of Chicago. And today we're going to be talking about an introduction to generative AI. So Sanjay, if I can ask you, maybe if you could just, for us, briefly introduce generative AI and tell us a little bit about why this has become such a significant part of the technology landscape and conversation today.
Absolutely, Kevin. Thank you for having me. So generative AI is a catch-all term for using statistical techniques to generate a significant amount of multimedia content. So whether that content be language, images, video, we're seeing this new technology on the horizon that not only can analyze data, but can also potentially generate new types of data based on simple human inputs.
Okay. So the concept of AI has been around for a while. How does generative AI differ from the AI that we've been talking about for a while?
Good. So I think at its heart, generative AI, as we're talking about it today, is based on a core piece of technology called statistical machine learning. And what statistical machine learning does is it looks at large amounts of data and tries to identify patterns in that large amount of data. And what we have really found over the last few years is that there are interesting scaling effects with data. As you collect larger and larger data sets, you can model richer and richer patterns, the same way that a literature scholar sees motifs that cut across multiple books. These models see common themes in images and videos across the scale of the internet. And you pick up enough of these motifs and enough of these themes, you can start being able to generate very convincing content on the other side of it.
So that's really interesting. And I think, like, when we talk about generative AI, for some of the people that I talk with, they feel like this just came out of nowhere. Like, all of a sudden, all we could talk about was ChatGPT and Bard and some of these tools. But I think you and I know that that's not really the case. Can you talk a little bit about the evolution of generative AI?
Absolutely. And I really think that the real question we should be asking is why here and why now? And with generative AI, it's a confluence of really three factors that were already on the horizon. First, the internet has created a vast corpus of human-created data that is largely publicly accessible. So first, we have an extremely large amount of data of human content, of human-generated content, and richly annotated with website titles and URLs and links and so on. So we not only have data, we have a lot of rich annotations and metadata about this data. That's kind of part one. Part two is that we've seen technologically over the last 2 decades the rise of something called deep neural networks. And this modeling technology has allowed us to find richer and richer patterns in data. And the last thing is the rise of cloud computing has allowed us to not only think about these models and think about them philosophically, but actually train them practically. So these three things, cloud computing, internet scale data, and deep neural networks, is really, it's natural. The natural next step is convincing multimedia content synthesis. And that's been where AI has been going for the last 10 years. And I think it's been realized because a lot of different pieces have actually come together.
So from your perspective, what would you say is it that makes AI particularly important? Is it really the pivotal thing for this technological era?
Good. So I think that the best way to think about what makes this new brand of AI transformative is really the changes to the human-computer interface that I think are on the horizon. When we think about computers, when I think about computers when I was a kid, it took a substantial amount of expertise to use even a simple program. I think that when we start seeing software that has natural language understanding, it can understand English prompts that you're giving it, or it can understand the visual world, or it can understand videos. Usually computers just thought of this type of data as just bytes on disk. Now it can really understand the what and the why of that data more than we could ever do before. Now, there are always going to be pros and cons to everything, and like sometimes these computers are going to get things wrong, but I think I see that as the transformative piece here, right? The way that humans interact with computers before was programmatic. Now it might be much more conversational in the way that